Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today we're going to be going over the setup for the Magicka Nightblade and Markarth that I've been using. Um, so let's go ahead and jump into it. I have my max Magicka is 33.9, magic recovery is 1.3, maximum health is 17.1, my spell damage is 1.9 on buff, my spell crit is 70.5, buffed up, or at least with a pot, and I'll just hit that thing over there. Weapon damage is 2.3 without the weapon damage proc, and magic recovery is 1.7. So decent recovery. So I have 58 points into Magicka, 6 points into health. You could probably drop the points into health if you wanted to, because I think you would still be around the 16.5 mark. That's up to you. So that's just kind of where I'm at. The boon I'm running is the Shadow. Food that we're running is just Witch Mother's Potent Brew. Now, I know it says werewolf here, but do not worry about that. That was for something else. I got bit, I just haven't got it cleansed yet. So, champion points: 28 Warlord, 23 Sprinter, 16 into Bashing Focus, 64 Tenacity, 64 Arcanist, 41 Shadow Ward, and 34 Tumbling. Now, Arcanist and Tenacity are probably your main two here. In the green tree, once you get these to 64, or you can work them up together, doesn't really matter. You have options after this. You can either go with roll dodging, block, or if you're someone who sneaks around, even shade. But the main point of this tree is to get to 75 so you can have the Treasure Hunter passive, which increases the quality of items you find in chests, whether it's chests at dolmens, when you're picking a safe, dungeons, trials, overland, doesn't matter. If it's a chest or if it's a kind of a box, it will count toward this. Or you can work on your break free, your sprinting, like if you're in a dungeon where people are running a lot, you're having to run catch up and you ain't got the stamina, you might want sprinter. Or if you find yourself bashing a lot, you might want some bashing focus. It's up to you. It's up to you on what you do, but make sure you focus on Arcanist and Tenacity first. So, red tree: 37 Ironclad, 30 Spell Shield, 25 Light Armor Focus, 64 Hardy, 64 Elemental Defender, 27 Quick Recovery, 23 Bastion. Now, this is just kind of what I use overall, but if you're going into trials, going into some dungeons, some DLC dungeons, it is best to have your CP points set up in a certain way. Who you're doing that with they should have something in their Discord, or you should have somebody in the guild that you're doing it with. They can point you in the right direction to where you need your CP points set up. But this is just a general rule of thumb that I tend to run around with. So, now, blue tree, we have 75 here into Thermometer. Now, the only reason why we have 75 here is because of the fact we're using the Exploiter. It increases our damage done against off-balance enemies by 10%. That's it. We have 66 into Master at Arms, 11 into Staff Expert, 1 Spell Erosion, 56 Elemental Expert, 61 into Elfborn. Now, if you wanted to, by all means, you definitely could drop Thermometer down to at least around 40. I wouldn't go any lower than 40. And put some into Spell Erosion if you feel like you're not getting the pin that you need. If you feel like you need more penetration, you can do that. But I've been having quite a bit of success with this, and it just feels pretty good. Oh, well, in the blue tree, you want to focus on Elfborn Elemental Expert first, especially Elfborn on Nightblade, because we already have so many things that increases our crit damage as it is. Elfborn is just really nice complementary there. Then Elemental Expert, followed by Master at Arms, and then Thermometer. Actually, I think Master at Arms, Thermometer, you can't go wrong with either one. So, and then Staff Expert and Spell Erosion should be the last two you focus on. So, now, when it comes to race, I am a Khajiit, mostly for the crit damage here, the extra 10% on crit damage. I get some max health, max magic, and max stamina, and I get increased health recovery and magic and stamina recovery. Now, high elf is top tier DPS with this, followed by dark elf and Khajiit. Both of them are pretty close. Britain's fourth, but you really can't go wrong with anything. I was originally a dark elf. I changed race to a Khajiit to try something out, and I'll go over that in a later, maybe in another video. But that's pretty much when it comes to racials. Now, gear that we're running is the first 5-piece set that we're running is Scathing Mage. This comes from Imperial City Prison. Yeah. And we're running an Inferno Staff, Precise, with an Absorb Magicka enchant just for a little more sustain. You can definitely use a Flame Damage enchant, but a lot of times, if you're using poisons and stuff like that, then this really wouldn't make a difference. You know, you can use double dot poisons like Crown Poisons or something like that. But just, I'm using Absorb Magicka enchant just for extra sustain, or you can put a Flame Damage enchant on this as well. You can't go wrong with either one. Now what this does, it gives us max Magicka spell crit, and when we deal direct damage, you have a 20% chance to increase your spell damage by 498 for 5 seconds. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. So it's just some nice little extra damage. As you can see, our spell damage was, let's see, actually this should probably proc Scathing Mage. There it goes, it's procced, 2.9. Now, if we get our Flame Damage enchant going, there it goes, 3.4. Now this is without Orlarium, Spell Power, or anything like that. You can get up to around 4.4, 4.5 in most trials, and maybe even some dungeons, depending on who you're running with. So, we have plenty of spell damage. It looks lower on the stat sheet at first, but then as we start buffing up and we get everything going, we get up pretty high. This is a relatively easy set to farm, especially on normal. Imperial City Prison isn't all that difficult. But if you're having trouble getting through it, then you can always swap this out for Burning Spellweave, which Burning Spellweave comes from City of Ash, and it is a nice little set. Gives you max Magicka, spell damage, spell crit. When you deal damage with a flame damage ability, you apply the burning status effect to them and increase your spell damage by 461 for 8 seconds. Now, we really don't have anything that we spam that deals flame damage, so this is mostly going to proc from our Wall of Elements. So, personally, I like Scathing Mage on the Nightblade. That's just me. I've been using it for years, for a good while, and I still use it to this day. So, back bar, we have a Maelstrom Inferno Staff infused with a weapon damage enchant on it. What this does is our light and heavy attacks will deal an additional 1.3k damage to enemies in your Wall of Elements. So, as long as you keep this down, your light attacks and stuff will do more damage. Comes from Maelstrom Arena. You can get it by going in on normal. It's very good. Get in there, run it. Just not gonna, it might take you a few tries, but you shouldn't have any issues. Trust me, it can get annoying because you might have to run it more than once or twice, but it is well worth the grind and getting it. So, now when it comes to Scathing Mage, we're running it on our front bar only. We front bar, and then we're running chest piece infused. Divines is better, but infused isn't bad at all. You want infused or divines, preferably divines infused on the big pieces, and then we have it divines on the waist and divine boots. So, now our monster set is Maw of the Infernal. We're running divines max Magicka, divines max Magicka, and both of these are light because of our other 5-piece set. Now what this does is it gives us max Magicka, and when we deal damage with a light or heavy attack, you have a 33% chance to summon a fire breathing Daedroth for 15 seconds. The Daedroth attack deals 5.2k flame damage and alternates between Fiery Breath, Fiery Jaws, and Jagged Claw, which alternates once every 2 seconds. This comes from, it's a very strong monster set. I've been having a lot of fun with it. This comes from, yeah, can't believe it looted my mind right now. Banish Cells. There it is. Banish Cells 2, actually. And it's not, it's pretty easy to get. It's a starter dungeon, but sometimes that last boss, I don't know why. It can just be a pain for some. Now, there are other option sets. There is Grothdar from Vaults of Madness that you can run. It gives more flame damage, gives you max magic and stuff. Now, Vaults of Madness and Banish Cells 2 will probably be the 2 easiest to do to get a monster set like this. Another one that you can possibly run is Crypt of Hearts and get Elambris. Elambris is a really good set as well. It procs it procs pretty decently, but it's only proccing off of our unstable Wall of Elements, because it only procs off of flame damage or shock damage. So just keep that in mind. It might not go off as much as you'd like it to. Valken Scoria is another good set to have. You get it from City of Ash 2, gives you spell pen. When you deal damage with a damage over time effect, you have an 8% chance to summon a meteor that deals 12.3k flame damage to a target and 4.5k flame damage to all other enemies within 5 meters. This effect can occur once every 5 seconds. This goes off quite a bit too. So you have options in the monster set. As long as they're light, you'll be okay. And if I would be remiss if I didn't show it. If you can get through and get Skullcaller, then you can also use Zons as well, which will give you more spell crit when you deal damage to a nearby enemy. Lighter heavy attack, you have a 33% chance to create a beam of fire that will connect you to your enemy. Beam deals 2.7k flame damage every 1 second to your enemy for 6 seconds. Every second, this damage increases by 100%. The beam is broken if the enemy moves 8 meters away from you. This effect can occur once every 18 seconds. So you also have Zons. This is another really good set to have. But that's through Skullcaller Peak. It's a DLC dungeon, and that dungeon is a nightmare. So it's up to you. Whatever group you can get through, wherever you feel like you're comfortable with doing. Crypto Hearts 1 would probably be the easiest, followed by Vaults of Madness and Banished Cells 2 are both probably about the same. I would say, for me personally, they feel like they're just about the same for difficulty. And then City of Ash 2, and then Skullcaller. So just keep that in mind for what monster set you're going for. But you really can't go wrong with any of them. Maul the Infernal and Zons, I do believe, deals the most damage out of those monster sets. But Valken Scoria and Groft are still very close. So, anyways, our second 5-piece set that we're running is Medusa. This is a heavy armor set. That's why we have That's why we have a light helmet and a light shoulder. It's because we're running 2 pieces on the body, both divines with max magicka, and then we're running 3 jewelry. Now you will have to transmute the jewelry. I have 1 infused and 2 bloodthirsty. You can do 3 bloodthirsty or 1 infused. It doesn't matter whichever way you want to do, but what this does is it just gives us a bunch of spell crit, and then the 5-piece gives us minor force at all times, increasing your critical damage by 10%. That's why we're running it 2 pieces on the body. Now for the most part, if you want the most out of this setup, you're going to you'll get more resistances and stuff if you have Divine's legs and Divine's chest. I just took the first 2 pieces that I got in Divine's, which was gloves and legs. So I'm lazy when it comes to farm in some cases. But you get minor force at all times. If you don't, the jewelry comes in healthy. And this comes from Arch Cranium. It's a very easy dungeon to go through. But if you don't have the transmutations to transmute this, then you might want to look at running... must be in my bank. If you don't have the transmutation crystals to transmute it, then it's not going to be as good as Mother Sorrow. So you can always go with Mother Sorrow here. It can be purple, gold, it doesn't really matter either way. What this does is it's going to give you max magicka, spell crit, and more spell crit. But honestly, on a Nightblade, you really don't need a crit set. So you could definitely run like Burning Spellweave and Scathing Mage, or Scathing Mage with New Moon, Julianos, something like that. Or just another straight power. Well, I did have something Mother Sorrow on me. Okay. You can run another hard-hitting set, because even without Medusa, when I put on False Gods, when I'm running more serious content and I put on False Gods, I still run Scathing Mage, and my crit is still around 60, 68, 74, somewhere between 68 and 74, depending on, the buffs and stuff going on. So crit is still good even on a Nightblade, even without the crit set. But if you just want more, that 70%, if you're just wanting more, then Medusa, Mother Sorrow is a really good set. I'm rocking Medusa, so that way I don't have to run minor force, and it gives me a shield on my back bar, or it kind of frees me up to use a flex, kind of a flex spot. So, but yeah, I know I went over a lot there. That's kind of the gear. I guess just a quick rundown. Scathing Mage, Inferno Staff, Precise, Absorb Magic Enchant, Maelstrom Marina Backbar, Infused Weapon Damage, Maul the Infernal, Light Helmet, Light Shoulders, Divines, preferably Divines chest pieces, all Divines on the body, but we're running Scathing Mage 3 pieces on the body, 2 pieces Medusa, Divines, Max Magicka, and then Medusa Jewelry, 2 Bloodthirsty, 1 Infused spell damage, all spell damage enchants. Now, you can swap Medusa out for Mother Sorrow if you don't have the Transmutation Crystals, or if you just don't really feel like farming another set. Mother Sorrow comes from Deshawn, Medusa comes from Arch Cranium. Now, Scathing Mage comes from Imperial City Prison, and Maw the Infernal comes from Banished Cells 2. I think I gave a quick rundown. Alright. Skills. This is a pretty easy setup. I made it as simple as possible. Main spammable is Swallow Souls. We steal an enemy's life force, dealing 7.4k magic damage and healing you for 36% of the damage inflicted every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. Now, if you do not want to use Swallow Soul, well, hold on. Let me go over this next ability before I get into this, because these two tie together. On the front bar, we have Degeneration. This comes from the Mage's line, so you'll have to collect a little bit of lore books. I think you unlock it at level 4, I think. But we bind an enemy with Chaotic Magic, dealing 12k magic damage over 10 seconds. SS Magic spills out from them, granting you Major Sorcery, increasing your spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. Now, this allows us to use Trash Pots with Degeneration, because we're getting Major Sorcery from this. And it's a dot too. But if you do not like the feel of Swallow Souls and you want to replace it with something else, you have options. You have Concealed Weapon, which is slash an enemy, dealing 7.9k magic damage. Attacking with a concealed weapon from the flank stuns enemy for 3 seconds and sets them off balance. While slotted, your movement speed while sneaking or invisible is increased. And then you have Crushing Shock or Force Pulse, whichever one you want to go with. And you also have Elemental Weapons, a really good one as well. Now, if you don't use that, if you don't like Swallow Soul and you use any one of those other ones, Concealed Weapon, Crushing Shock, Elemental Weapon, you're going to have to swap this one out as well. Now, you could probably still keep it on your bar somewhere, but you're going to have to move this, and you're going to have to swap this out for Crippling Grasp. The reason being is because in the Siphoning skill line, having gets on our bar, we're going to increase our Magicka by 8% while having a Siphoning ability slotted. Okay, so on our back bar, we have Siphoning attacks. On our front bar, we have Swallow Soul. So if you replace Swallow Soul, you're going to lose that 8% Magicka. So put Crippling Grasp on your bar instead of Degeneration. So, and then you'll be fine. So you can run whatever spammable you want. Just put Crippling Grasp here, and you've met the qualifications for your buff here. So you're good. So just keep that in mind to make those two little modifications to the abilities. So if you want to use something else other than Swallow Soul, replace Degeneration and Crippling Grasp. So, Merciless Resolve, focus your senses for 40 seconds, increasing your critical damage and healing by 2% with every light or heavy attack up to 5 times. While active, hitting an enemy with 5 light or heavy attacks converts this ability into Assassin's Will, allowing you to fire a Spectral Arrow for half cost that deals 16.3k magic damage and heals for 50% of the damage dealt if you are within melee range. We're pretty much almost always going to be in melee range due to our ultimate. Impel. Throw a magic blade with lethal precision to strike an enemy, dealing 3.9k magic damage and deals 300% more damage to enemies below 25% health. It's pretty much just our execute, self-explanatory. In our light, we're not really using it for the first part, but while slotted, your max Magicka is increased by 5% and you gain Major Prophecy, increasing your spell critical rate by 2.6. And then Soul Harvest. Ravage an enemy with a spinning attack, dealing 12.7k magic damage, and increasing your damage against them by 20% for 6 seconds. Also afflicts the enemy with Major Defile, reducing their healing received and health recovered by 16%. While slotted, anytime you kill an enemy, you gain 10 ultimate. Now, if you are having trouble sustaining, you might want to take the morph that is in cap. Yes, it is kind of it does disease damage, it is more for stamina, but when you light attack, you get resources back while having that slotted just for using it. So that can help you sustain as well if you're having trouble sustaining. Once you get good with, Soul Harvest, if you're having no issue sustaining, if you're having issues sustaining, in cap. Now, back bar, Unstable Wall of Fire. This lasts for 10 seconds. Slams your staff down to create an unstable flaming barrier in front of you, dealing 1k flame damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. When the effect ends, the barrier explodes, dealing 5.7k flame damage. Now, we're using the unstable wall morph. If you're still having trouble getting your rotation down and getting the timing down, you might want to go with Elemental Blockade, because it will last for 14 seconds at max level instead of just 10 seconds. Now, the reason why we're running 10 seconds, because this only lasts for 12 seconds. It would be 10 seconds, but due to our passive, it lasts for an extra 2 seconds. So we'll throw this down and throw this down. So it just gives us a chance to reapply this, then reapply this. So basically, when you start your rotation, you're going to use this first, then this, and then when you, after that, it's going to be Unstable Wall, Twisting Path. So you're going to reverse them. What this does, creates a corridor of shadows, granting you and allies an area major expedition, increasing movement speed by 30%. Effect persists for 4 seconds after leaving the path. Deals 1.9k magic damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Siphoning attacks. Imbued your weapon with soul stealing power, causing your light and heavy attacks to heal you for 1.4k health and restore 106 magicka for 20 seconds. Fully charged heavy attacks restore twice the value. You restore up to 4.2k additional magicka when the effect ends, based on the length of time siphon attacks was active. So this is a way that we sustain. Keep it going. You're going to cast this every 2 rotations if you're using it. Now, by all means, if you have no trouble sustaining, you're not having any issues, you can put Degeneration on your back bar here and be good. If you don't have Degeneration, you don't really have the means for Essence of Spell Powers, you're not screwed there either. You can always use Sap Essence. This is a big AoE, but the main source of it is if an enemy is hit, you gain Major Brutality and Sorcerer, increasing your weapon and spell damage by 20% for 20 seconds. So if you're running dungeons, you can just run, and as you first run into combat, just pop it. It lasts for 20 seconds, you get all the buffs. So as you go through your rotation, just like Siphoning Attack, every 2 rotations, you're going to cast this. So it'll just give you that Major Brutality. You're not going to have Sustain like you do with Siphoning Attacks, but at least this way, as a newer player or starting out, or if you just don't have the funds for the means right now, the funds to get spell power pots, at least that way you can still have, you're not running around without spell power if you're not using Degeneration here. So Harness Magicka, this is a flex spot. You know, if you wanted to, you could put Sap Essence here. You know, this is a flex spot. I just have it here just in case, because you never know what you might get when you do randoms. So sometimes it is fun just to have a shield, because as a magic user, you don't have the stamina to keep roll dodging all those heavy attacks. Sometimes it is good just to shield up and block and hope you survive the hit. So, convert a portion of your magicka into a protective ward, gaining a damage shield that absorbs 8.7k damage for 6 seconds. Damage shield strengthens capped at 50% of your max health. While active, whenever the shield absorbs damage, you restore 206 magicka. Each piece of light armor worn increases the magic restore by 33%. Effect can occur up to 3 times. Then we have Inner Light again on our back bar. Again, why not? And then for our ultimate, we're using Fiery Rage. Credit Catalytic. You know what? I ain't even doing it. Create a storm at the target location that builds for 2 seconds, then lay waste to all enemies in the area, dealing 8.4k flame damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. Pretty standard. Most of the time for the fights, I will drop my Storm, Twisting Path, Wall of Elements, Degeneration, and by that point I can fire off a bow, and then I go into a few Swallow Souls. So basically, for the rotation, you would buff up. Of course, you would pop your first pot, whether it be Essence of Spell Power or your regular Magicka pot. So we're just going to do that because we want that recovery from the start. So we buff, we drop our ult, light, Twisting Path, light, unstable, light, Degeneration, light, Swallow Soul, light, fire, Swallow Soul, Swallow Soul, Swallow Soul, rotate, Wall of Elements, Twisting Path, Degeneration. Should be able to end cap at this point. Spectral proc, again, 3 souls, bar swap, unstable, Twisting Path, siphon, bar swap, Degeneration, bow. Pretty simple, very, very easy. And when it comes down to it, with that kind of a simple rotation. Let me scroll up. 35.2k. Very easy. No problem at all. Using this exact setup, using this bar, you can do it. Using trash pots. Now, of course, there are better rotations, like on our back bar. Dropping the when you DPS test, if you drop the shield for the shadow, the summon shade, that work. It'll give you more there. I need to level that move up for some reason. For some reason, why when I changed my character, like all my skills got reset to level 1. I don't know what happened, but yeah. So just keep that in mind. Summon shade is a good alternative on your back bar as well. This lasts, I think, morphed out lasts for 16, 20 seconds, somewhere along that. But with this setup here, you're able to hit 35, 36, 37, 38. You shouldn't have any issues hitting those numbers, so you should have no problem completing any vet content and DLC for man, even most Craglorn trials, and even getting into Maul, unless they want some outrageous number. But normally 35k is about where it gets you into vet Maul. So you shouldn't have any issues with this setup. It's a very easy rotation. You know, you don't have to do that. Degeneration, fire off a bow. Make sure you fire your bow. And honestly, even if you miss a bow, even in that third 5k, I missed a couple of spectral bows. So keep that in mind. I mean, it was not a perfect rotation because I blue screened previously trying to do this. So I was just trying to get through it pretty quick. So, but yeah, that's the Magicka Nightblade setup. This is the setup I've been running throughout Markarth. Been having a lot of fun with it. No issues. And of course, you can use this to work toward your sororias, your false gods, you know, whatever it is that you need. But you know, in game wise, you're going to be looking at sororias or false gods, of course. With this setup, you should have no issue getting in there and getting any of your setup, any of your gear. So, yeah, let me know what you're using on your Nightblades. Let me know how you're liking this patch, and let me know if you're excited for the Oblivion. So, until next time, take care.